Hi, friends, and welcome to ScreenVomit, the only movie podcast for normal people. I am, of course, your host, Kayla, and with me, as always, is my twin, Kali J.
Hi, sweet babies.
And with us today, longtime Vomit heads know we are typically a podcast for normal people. However, this week we got ourselves a dang movie genius to join us for the pod. Our guest is an actor. He's been in such things as Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D, a bunch of rockin' music videos from bands y'all know. And he's got some cool stuff coming up soon, too. And friends, that would be our new friend, actor Galen Howard.
Hello! Yay! Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so stoked to have you here.
Totally. Yeah, so Kayla and I were actually, I don't know if you were going to tell this, Kayla.
What?
Kayla and I were recently together. We live in separate states, but we were recently together on a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like right after Galen, you had agreed to hop on as a guest.
Mm-hmm.
And I had not seen you in anything. I was like, I hadn't seen you in Brooklyn Nine-Nine or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or anything that Kayla had.
How dare you?
I know. I'm not a true fan. I need to call
rude.
calling myself out at the top. Not a true Howard head.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah.
But we watched a short film you were a lead in. And I have no idea what it was called now. Kayla, do you remember?
It's the one where you like fall in love with a mannequin.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm talking about? She makes you get her arms.
Yeah. Rock Problem. Yes.
We finished it, and it's a weird movie, man. I'm not trying to call you out or anything, but we finished it, and I was like, oh boy. All right. I don't really want to.
What a wild plot.
It goes some places. Yeah. That was a fun one. That was a wild ride. Yeah.
You did great in it.
Go on.
I was terrified of your character who was murdering women to become mannequins.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of there's a bit of a Frankenstein element to it. You know. Yeah. It's a bizarre premise, but there's it's always a challenge to take something like that, such a bizarre premise, and kind of humanize it. That's always the challenge with that. I mean, I end up, I consider myself a character actor and usually find myself in a lot of very outlandish premises that I get dropped into. So it's always a challenge to take that and, like I said, humanize it, make it find that like human need, beyond all of the craziness.
That's so interesting. I never even thought about it from the actor's perspective of what it must be like to be handed a script, and it's like, all right, this is about the
an absolute maniac.
Yeah, the perviest weirdo you know, and you have to portray him, but also make him, like, try your best to make him sympathetic. He's kind of the protagonist.
Yeah, yeah.
Well done. I'm so happy to know that there is more behind it, that there's an actual process rather than just like, oh, right, I'm the mannequin fucker in this one. Let's get going.
You leave that to the rest of the audience. It's like, oh, whoa, it's the mannequin fucker, right?
To me, that seems like more fun, like being those kind of like insane, off the wall characters.
Right. Well, and that film is so interesting because it takes that idea of this. First, it literally humanizes this perversion. Literally making the mannequin real, totally. and then it turns the perversion on him.
Mm-hmm.
It first humanizes it, then it turns it against him at the end, which is it's really fun that way.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I have so much more respect for it now because I'm a total baby brain when I watch movies. It just goes in my head, and I'm like, that's the movie, and it's not until I actually
say it out loud
or talk about it. I'm like, there's actual thought and intention behind it rather than just like, oh, we made a movie about what if we fucked a mannequin and like.
Yeah, I guarantee you that's not. Yeah, I guarantee you that was not the process.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean it is. That was the challenge. They really wanted to make it a love story at the bottom of it, but also like how someone's loneliness, turns on other people and then turns on him. And I think that's really what it's about. Interestingly, some of those themes actually carry over into the film we're discussing today.
They do. Yeah. You are not wrong.
Sure. Yeah.
Perversion and loneliness,
Yeah, absolutely. I also was wondering, like, how did you decide to become an actor even? I mean, you've been doing it for a long time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was, I got the bug as a kid. I'm live in Los Angeles now, but was from Northern California originally, and started acting in plays and in high school and post high school education, and it was just a gradual thing of just getting as much experience as I could in that area, and then moving on from there. But it was always just a need. I always had an active imagination. Was always a diehard storyteller, and
totally.
It always came from that. It's always about just putting yourself in the story, finding what the story is and how you fit into it, and that's always intrigued me.
That rules, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. That seems like such a scary thing to do.
Sure.
I love it because, like, it's really just like how you. I don't know. Correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth here, but like, it feels like it's just your process to. I mean, I think everyone kind of does this in their lifetime to just understand humanity and to, you talk about finding your connection in the story where you fit in. And I mean, it's really just kind of like, it sounds like your need to fulfill that is so vital. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think that is spot on. I mean, because that's what storytelling is. It's a reflection of humanity. It's always been a way to understand the human condition more. It's and a way to continue it, and a way to keep learning from it, to take those lessons and pass them on to in one way or another. And so for the actor, it's a matter of taking those ideas and then embodying that, and then finding where you fit in. And and there is that sense of where do you fit into humanity itself? What's the overall message that you're conveying?
Wow. Yeah.
What do you think? Because I'm taking everything you're saying, and this is great. All of this going on about what acting means to you and what it means to your perception of the self and everyone else's perceptions of self. I don't think anyone. I mean, I know they did. I just want to hear the process behind whatever the movie we did today. Kayla, what's the title of this movie we did today?
The title of the movie that we did today, which Galen picked, was The Death of Dick Long.
Yes. And tells you what you need to know at the top.
Yeah.
Dick joke at the top.
Right.
Dick joke at the top.
Right. Well, yeah. It's worth mentioning. This is from Daniel Scheinert, one of the directors of a film you guys have done before, Swiss Army Man.
Swiss Army Man. Hell yeah. Yeah. Which I didn't know when you suggested it, but was really excited to find out.
Yeah.
And it also made sense once I watched the movie.
Totally.
That really tracked, with like.
Exactly. So, for Swiss Army Man, you have to wait a few minutes before you get the fart joke. For this one, you get the dick joke right at the title.
Right up top. So you know what you're getting into.
You do. Totally. You do and you don't. Right. I mean, especially if you have seen Swiss Army Man, that film is such a wild ride. This one is
a lot tamer.
Has much more restraint. It definitely has much more restraint. I mean,
it's a little more based in reality.
Exactly. Absolutely. The subject matter is definitely no less controversial, is certainly, and also gets very dark, but it takes you about halfway before you really know what the movie's about.
Right.
Totally.
So let's just run through the rest of the cast that we would know. So from this movie, there's a bunch of comedians in it. Some notable ones that I noticed was Sarah Baker, who's been in Big Little Lies. She was in Mascots. She's like one of those people who's been on one episode of every TV show there ever was.
Exactly. Santa Clarita Diet. She was on an episode of Louie back in the day. Fantastic. Fantastic actor.
We have Sunita Mani, who plays Earl's neighbor. She's been on The Good Place. She's on Glow. We have Jess Wexler, who plays Dick's wife, was in It Chapter 2. She's also the main person in Teeth.
Yeah, great movie.
And then Roy Wood Jr., who plays the doctor, is the correspondent on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. So those are pretty much like the main people that we'd know from other things. Like the main two guys really haven't been in like anything that big, I guess. Michael Abbott Jr. and Andre Highland. Andre Highland has been in a lot of independent work. Right.
Directed a film that came to Sundance called The Fourth, and was. I
think he's had a couple things at Sundance.
Yeah, and he was in a crazy movie called Relaxer from the indie filmmaker Joel Petrakis a couple of years ago. So and then Michael Abbott Jr. has been in a lot of stuff from the had smaller roles in a lot of films from the Jeff Nichols, I believe.
Yes, it is Jeff Nichols. Yes.
Yeah. This is one of his first major starring roles in a film like this. So they're both fantastic.
Oh yeah, I mean they both rocked, and I think it was kind of intentional to pick, people who are a little less well known to add to the authenticity of the storytelling in this too.
100%.
Which I thought it was a cool choice.
Very good choice. Yeah.
Colin, do you want to run through the critic scores real fast?
Rotten Tomatoes, we got a 75%. Metacritic, we got a 69, nice out of 100. Nice. Google users, 71, right in the middle, right in between them.
Yeah, all the scores are right down the middle.
Yeah, grouped together.
All right, so let's watch the trailer,
yeah.
And then we'll get into the discussion.
Baller.
Hey, you motherfuckers want to get weird? Damn, dude. How you doing back there, Dick? Fucking close enough.
You know, I normally don't call y'all about minor shit.
This is a big deal. I get it.
It's a whole nother ballgame.
Lord.
Did you hear about the murders?
Huh?
Someone dropped this guy off in front of the ER. Brutally murdered.
Murderer? Who the fuck's a murderer? We're the fucking murderer! Guess we got a little carried away last night.
Once I had a secret love.
You know what, dude? What they do in Pulp Fiction?
Call Anthony Kiedis.
You're thinking of Harvey Keitel. Anthony Kiedis is the dude from Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Shut the fuck up.
With Dick last night.
Yeah, I mean, not really. I mean, yeah, but just for a little while. I left early.
He didn't come home.
How did he die? Zeke, tell me the truth.
And my secret love's no secret anymore.
Are you joking?
All right, so Galen, you picked this movie. Had you seen it before this?
This was on my list to see because I've loved Scheinert's work for since his early short films and music videos all the way to Swiss Army Man, and just the cast and everything else just completely compelled me. And so it's been on my list for a long time.
Cool.
For
Yeah. So
sure.
we had never seen it either. So yeah, this was interesting.
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess we can just, start from the top. It's an A24 film, which we love. We start off meeting these three best friends. They're having band practice for their band Pink Floyd.
Incredible.
Incredible name. And they were doing It's Been a While by Stained cover, which was incredible. Yeah. The music they choose to use in this movie was it was just all perfect.
Very fitting, very fitting. Well, yeah, it's fitting for the setting, for the
right,
yeah, and that plays a big part in the film.
Totally.
They really tried to stick pretty authentically to the Alabama setting. Like the director's from Alabama. The person who wrote this lived in Alabama for a while. The person who plays Zeke's wife is also from Alabama. So yeah, they really did try and make it like authentic to the location and to the people there, which I thought was really cool. And I think they did a good job with that.
I had no idea this was set in Did it say it?
No.
It was set in Alabama? Because this just felt like... So I live in southern Indiana, and this felt like, oh, this is happening down the road for me. This is happening like in my town right now kind of thing.
Well, it could be anywhere in the South.
Totally.
Think, but
it's just like, I have like several friends who are just like this, who are like, yeah, they're in their 30s and they're still doing the exact same thing that they did in high school. Just playing in their shitty band, drinking shitty beer, smoking shitty weed, and
causing a ruckus.
Yeah, causing a ruckus. That's all they do. And like, we see them have band practice, and then they have fun that night. They get weird, quote unquote, as they say in the trailer. And I'll say, it seemed tight. Like the high schooler in me was like, oh, what? They're just getting high and shooting guns? Where do I sign up?
Setting off fireworks like that is extremely Indiana as well.
Very.
Like the one, like shooting off the one cannon between his legs.
Incredible. Yeah, because the firework is a wiener.
Right. The phallic firework. Yeah. Which becomes the poster for the film as well.
Yeah. Yep. So they're doing wild boy shit, and then we get the title card, and after the title card, they're just driving to the hospital. We don't know what happened, except that we know that Dick is like bleeding profusely in the back seat.
Right. So yeah, kind of the Reservoir Dogs move.
Yes. Very.
Yeah. And I at first was like, did I miss something? I don't know.
Right. Get in late, get out early. Is the screenwriting tool there.
Yeah. The beginning of this movie, I would say, is pretty much straight comedy. Like everything that's happening is funny, even when it's a little serious. At the beginning, I think so. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, at the beginning, yes.
Sure.
At the beginning, yeah. Like they are, trying to get this man to the hospital, and they're doing all kinds of goofy shit. They pull him out of the car, they bonk his head on the ground, like just everything is like very kind of slapstick and funny.
Right. Well, everything is going wrong. Even up to this point, they're trying to make the best move in the situation, in this terrible situation, and then still everything is blowing up in their face.
Yeah.
Right. But I feel like the tone kind of changes later on, but for now, it's just straight up funny.
We're just rollicking.
Yeah, we're just rollicking. We meet the cop who comes into the ER is like an old ass woman who's like drunk. She's like walking with a cane, and she's a police officer for this town. Like it's straight humor.
Right. It's everything is just left of what you'd expect, but it all feels very small town. It all feels like there are towns that are exactly like this.
Totally.
Yeah, for sure. So they take his wallet for anonymity.
Yes.
And just dump his body there. And we find out that he passes away from rectal hemorrhaging and head trauma.
Right.
And of course, they do some jokes about there being semen in the rectum. Like, isn't that funny? There's weirdos in this town. Which I didn't love, but we'll go with it.
Sure.
It's again, it's in keeping with the setting, but it doesn't necessarily sit well.
What would Alabamians say?
Right.
True. But I just still think, I mean, in this day and age, do we need like gay sex is funny jokes? I don't think so.
I mean, I don't think it was necessarily a joke for the audience as much as just as
trying to joke on the people.
Well,
Context building.
Yes, it reveals the culture and kind of just it provides the setting for where this story goes and how it's received.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it doesn't make it any it doesn't make it any more palatable, but I think that's kind of the idea.
Yeah. So the two guys are kind of having their own reactions to what has happened. So one of the guys, Earl, is trying to skip town. He loads all his stuff up in his truck, which kind of becomes like a running joke for the rest of the movie, is that he's like driving this truck around that has like this whole everything he owns in the back of it, basically.
Correct. Right.
Which is pretty funny.
Additionally, this does not work well for an audio medium, but Earl's haircut is
the Caesar cut.
Intense.
Yeah, no,
Again,
it's a bold choice.
Like, this movie nails the setting and execution very well of like characters and setting and like I understood everyone. I was like,
right,
yes, he has this haircut, so
Definitely.
he of course he's going to.
I
talk
know
like
this man.
Right. Zeke has the bleach blonde, that cheap bleach,
but it's grown out.
With the roots, with like half roots, that he just hasn't bothered.
So good.
I literally know both of these men, which is hilarious to me. Yeah. The guy who played Earl, what was his name?
Andre Highland. Yeah.
Yeah, Andre Highland. He actually picked a lot of his character traits. A lot of the stuff, a lot of his lines in this movie were improvised or were caught from just things he would say out loud on his own and put into the movie.
Right. Yeah, he comes from an improv background, so that definitely makes sense.
That tracks. I listened to some interviews with the director who was saying like, yeah, when we cast him in this movie, he just came up and was like, yo, I feel like my character would have a Caesar cut and vape a lot. And he was like, all right, well, that's what he does now.
Yep.
That's great. I love that.
It totally works for. I loved him in this movie. Like everything he does is gold.
Yeah,
every scene of his is so good.
Very understated. It's very understated in a way. I mean, though there's a lot of bold choices made in how his character is presented. His performance itself is very understated, which contrasts it greatly.
Yeah, it doesn't distract from like anything else. Yeah, going on in the movie.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. And like the vape almost becomes its own character.
Oh my god.
Too,
when you hear because like, I don't know if I don't vape, but I do know that you have to like, you preheat it or whatever. And so anytime you would hear the hiss of the preheat, I like my serotonin just shot and I was like, ooh, he's gonna blow a big cloud.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah, he rules.
So that's what Earl's doing. And then Zeke is having a whole thing going on where he has to take his daughter to school, but the backseat of his car is like absolutely demolished in blood, like buckets of blood in the backseat.
Yeah.
And this is like one of the first like really tense kind of things going on, I would say.
Right.
Totally.
Absolutely.
I just spilled something in my car recently, and I need to get it detailed. So this brought out a lot of anxiety in me.
Gosh.
Watching these guys scrub, and I was just like, shit, I do need to get my car detailed, huh?
Relating a little too hard to the guys.
But yeah, these guys are me.
I love that for you. So they go to the gas station, him and his daughter, and he has taken the ID out of the wallet, but not the credit card. So he gives this wallet to the police officer. First of all,
his daughter
his daughter sold him out, and she continues to sell him out for the rest of the movie, basically.
Right.
But he cannot keep a secret from his daughter. So already like this is going to go off the rails. She's that age where that whatever goes in comes right back out. There's no secrets.
That's right. Exactly.
She's really the antagonist of the whole thing.
I mean, she's a foil.
She's a boss.
She's a foil, definitely. Yeah.
I love her.
Mm-hmm. Oh, she was perfect.
Yeah, she rocked. So they have the whole gas station scenario. He hands off the wallet directly to the cop.
Yep.
The girl's covered in blood. And this is where I think the tone starts to shift. to being more like, I'm stressed for the character, and it's less like just straight up funny, which is really cool because like the rest of the movie, they continue to do things that are technically very funny. And there's a lot of like foils, but the way it's presented is like, I'm stressed for the characters. Like I want things to go right and they just keep going wrong.
Yeah.
And you're just feeling more of like the drama and the intensity.
Yeah, that's what it is. The authenticity of these characters makes them so empathetic. And it's so... that's because like Galen, right before you hopped on, I was telling Kayla that I did not enjoy watching it. I have a different view of it. I think it's a good movie, but I did not enjoy watching it because it just made me, and you know, I joked about it earlier with the detailing, but it's like, I was so nervous and like upset throughout this. And the more that got revealed to me, it doesn't like, nothing goes, again, like you said, nothing goes right. So everything goes wrong. So you just fall further and further into this anxiety and you're just like, oh God, this is all terrible, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a quote from the director about kind of what he was going for with this movie, which he said, like, when people are sad and their marriages are falling apart or whatever's going on, they're a mess. They fall down the stairs, they misspeak, they stutter. But in movies, people are always so articulate and they hit their mark and they're showing up and making speeches. And that's not relatable when people are going through tragedy and they still continue to look great. So he said, when I've gone through hard periods of my life, I'm ridiculous. So it felt like, in a way, the comedy was another way of chasing authenticity because real life is funny. And I thought that was really cool point of view.
That rips. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, no, it definitely, that definitely tracks.
Yeah, mission accomplished with it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, you know, if anybody is going to take a set of circumstances and totally change the way you feel about seeing them, it's going to be this director, right? Like,
yeah.
After Swiss Army Man. Like,
right.
Where he makes you fall in love and cry over like a farting corpse.
Over a farting corpse, right? How a farting corpse is a way into the redemption of a suicidal man, and where where this one is this tragic death and very controversial set of circumstances leads way to these on the surface kind of comical exchanges and interactions, and it's just this kind of, it turns into this kind of comedy of errors that just gets more and more uncomfortable. And and then it becomes, we're led to believe for the first half that we're in the middle of some kind of crime drama, and we're not necessarily anticipating the direction it goes.
Right. Yeah. So we don't know still up to this point what happened to their friend, and we don't find out for a while still. Yeah. Exactly.
The cause of death and what their involvement was in it.
Right. So you don't even really know like how to feel for these guys. It clearly seems like there was some type of accident, but we don't know who's really at fault or like what's really happening.
Right.
Except that they're both really upset and feel some kind of responsibility for what happened.
Exactly. Yeah. And a need to cover it up at all costs.
That was what killed me. That's what took me. It took me right back to being like, I don't know, a fucking 8th grader or something, where you just don't want to tell. It's, something small like hiding porn or something, and you just want to like hide it at all costs, and you are willing to build the most fantastical lie around it, even if it contradicts itself and it ends up falling in on itself. You don't care. You are not going to disclose what is hidden in that file on your computer.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and that's like another thing that I read about the director, kind of made this movie in response to other movies like The Hangover and stuff like that, where a bunch of guys like do something fucked up together and it's just kind of never discussed again and nobody suffers any consequences. And
right.
They like go on with their lives. Like at the end of The Hangover, like the dude's married and like
that's right.
Starting his life with his new wife, and
holy shit.
Everybody's just like, bro, we're never talking about what happened last night. And like, that sucks. Like, that's a terrible way to, have a partnership. And it's a sad example for like families in America.
Oh my God. Okay.
So these men are suffering consequences of every choice that they make. Like everything bad that happens, like it comes back around to them, which is cool.
And we come to find that this is the consequences of this evening are the result of an ongoing, shall we say, lifestyle.
Yeah. We'll find that out not too long from now. So like we get just like a couple more like things going on. The wife calls and says that, you know, Dick's dead. Well, she doesn't say Dick. She says somebody. Zeke tries to light his clothes on fire, but it's raining, so the clothes won't light on fire. Right. Then he throws them, but then he has to just go around and pick them up, which was pretty funny.
Another thing I totally relate to, when you're angry and at wit's end and you just make a bigger mess for yourself, and you're just like, well, I guess I'll pick up all 52 of these playing cards now. Like,
right.
They try to sink the car, and the car is the water's too shallow.
There was for me, it definitely echoed elements of Fargo.
Yes.
Yeah, as far as watching these people fumble in trying to cover something up, and those moments that pushes them to break down, like that great moment in Fargo where William H. Macy is scrubbing the ice from his windshield and just completely breaks down and just starts smashing the hood. You know, it's just, again, this little mundane moment, you know, that always, like, the thing that causes the person to break isn't the biggest thing that happens, but it's that little thing,
right?
You know, and all those little things that you know that they're trying to do to make something right, and you know, again, everything just keeps blowing back in their face.
Right, like it seems like it should be easy to cover up your culpability in a murder, but it's not.
Right.
In practice, it's not easy.
You'd think it would be. You think murder would be easy, but
right.
Oh God.
So
we have to get to how it happened. I am dying over here.
We're pretty much there. I mean, so first of all, they're doing DNA testing at the hospital with the regular ER doctor, which I thought was interesting. Mm-hmm. And he finds out that the semen that was found is from a horse.
That's right.
So, interesting choice.
At this point, you know what it is, but it just hasn't been spelled out for you, so you're just kind of like, well, how did that get there?
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, at that point, because it was, this was actually based on, on a real occurrence that, that actually didn't take place in the South, but in North Washington,
Seattle.
Just outside Seattle, Enumclaw, Washington. So when I saw that coming, it was like, oh, the Enumclaw horse fucking story.
Yeah, and it was like pretty directly, basically what happened. What?
Galen, did you just know about the Enumclaw horse fucking of 05 off the top of your head, or did you have to look it up like us?
It was, well, they made a documentary about it called Zoo about 15 years back, or shortly after it. It was it was one of those stories that everyone read about. And I think I first remembered it when that documentary came out. And it was one of those stories that people... it
was such a wild story that it was probably just everywhere.
It was posted on forums and everything. And then the documentary came out, and it was focusing on the person in question and really did seek out to humanize this person and humanize like the people who were affected in the small town. It was Enumclaw, Washington. And then it's funny because, it's interesting. My family, my aunt and her husband, moved to Enumclaw about 10 years ago.
Wow. So right after this.
About 5 years later. And I was like, so she was telling me like, they're moving up to this place in, place outside Seattle, Enumclaw. And I was like, oh, I know Enumclaw. And she was, my mother's like, what? How do we know Enumclaw? I was like,
well. What a wild thing to know about.
It's one of those urban legends that is not a legend or even very urban. you know.
Totally.
I actually watched the documentary last night also.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Which you can find for free on YouTube, by the way.
Worth watching?
Actually, yeah, it was actually really well done.
Beautiful
And it
shot.
presented some really wild information. It's basically just interviews with, there was like a ring of people who were involved in, let's say, animal relationships.
Yeah.
And so there was like a whole group of, people who would get together and just, go have fun. And so it was just like some interviews with those people, basically. And they're talking over like actors, reenacting some things mainly.
Not like that.
So you don't see anything.
Not like
no.
You
You don't see anything like wild, which I was like a little nervous going in. Like, I don't know if I'm going to like fuck myself up watching this. So I didn't feel fucked up really after I watched it. So I think that maybe says something.
Right.
But anyway, so the main story is that a man died in the same way that Dick Long dies in this movie.
Right, exactly.
In 2005 in that town. Yeah, by,
yes,
banging a horse.
Yeah. Well,
and same thing, like they dropped him off.
Technically being banged by a horse.
Well, yeah. Okay, yeah, good clarification.
It does say receptive.
Being the receptor,
He is the recipient. Yeah.
And kind of same thing, like he was anonymously dropped off at an ER there.
Wow.
The death was ruled accidental. And at the time, beastiality was technically legal and no animals were injured. So they couldn't really charge anyone with anything.
Yeah.
Just one guy was charged with trespassing and he just got like a fine and 1 day of community service.
Well, justice hands comically, all done here.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
But 5 years later, he moved to Tennessee and did get arrested for doing the same thing. So
same thing. Yeah. There's no way they were going to stop.
And that would have been post-documentary. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, from what's presented in the documentary, and now we're fully just not talking about Dick Long, but just last it's like they consider it sort of like a sexuality, like being gay or something. I hate to equate those two, but like they just have that proclivity. They're attracted to animals, and that's just what it is. So it's not. It's less of a crime of opportunity and more of like that's just their attraction. So yeah, probably not something that's easy to stop.
Yeah.
Anyway, should we have trigger warning to this? I don't know.
We'll get to zoophilia in a different app. I guess we'll get hard on it next time.
Pull the collar a few times and get back to the movie.
Anyway, so Zeke.
Where was I in my notes? So they had sunk the car. So the wife called the cops to report the car stolen. And it's pretty much just everything's downhill from this point.
100%. Yeah.
So like the cops show up I think they know at this point what happened with the DNA test.
Correct.
Everybody's nervous. He can't figure out what to do with himself. Like there's a coffee comedy going on, which was pretty funny. Just trying to offer everybody coffee. Nobody wants it. So he's just scooting the coffee cup from person to person.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Kind of. Yeah.
You really don't go more than like a couple minutes without like some piece of comedy happening in this movie, which
right. Well, it's always something. I mean, it's pretty skillfully done in that way. There's always something to take focus away from, to kind of get in the way of what's under the surface. There's always to represent the tension of what's going on underneath.
Totally.
Yeah. And there's a little bit of foreshadowing that the daughter is going to spill the beans again, which she ends up doing.
Freaking villain.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Zeke notices that he's getting stressed, the cops are at his house and everything, he calls Earl. And Earl in this moment I loved because he's sitting with that girl on the porch showing her forklift videos.
Incredible.
From doing dangerous forklift stunts at work.
King.
And then his ringtone is Down with the Sickness, which I loved. Yeah. It's like such a small, it's like 2 seconds of a scene, but it is so perfect. Every choice was perfect right there, and I just have to mention it.
It does remind me of when my partner Lindsay came home from work one day. She works at a DV shelter, domestic violence, and she said, I was meeting with a woman today, and her text tone was the ooh, wah, ah, ah, ah. and her text tone. So she kept getting texts throughout a session. And just going ooh, ah, all throughout this whole session, and I was just like, that's the only good text tone.
That's great.
That is hysterical, and just solidifies that this movie is extremely Indiana.
Yeah, very. Alabama, Indiana, we're all the same in the dark.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
You ever been to the Midwest, Galen? Spent much time out there?
I have had a lot of family in like Minnesota, Minnesota, North Dakota, Ohio area.
Oh, cool. Yeah, me and Colin are both originally from Indiana. I live in Chicago now, or just outside of Chicago. But we're extremely Midwest, I would say.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the daughter ends up spilling the beans, and then Zeke has to fully spill the whole beans to his wife, and that's where we get the whole story of what's been going on. That these three guys are their own little troupe who have been messing around with this horse since long before he met his wife. So however long that is, many years seems.
Mm-hmm.
And that horse boned their friend to death. Yeah. Yep, that's pretty much all you can say on that one.
Right.
You hear it in the movie, and you're just like, well, I knew what it was.
But now they said it, and now I really know what it was.
Now they put words to it.
Yeah.
I was shocked when they said they'd done it multiple times, that it was like a historical thing.
Mm-hmm. Right, because you don't
gives it some context. It really does. It kind of makes. That was honestly the thing that I was like, come on, Zeke, come on. Was that he hadn't told his wife earlier. Otherwise, I had no problem.
Right.
Your main problem with the movie was that he was keeping a secret from his wife.
Look, I think husband and wife should tell each other everything.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to be.
That's my one rule.
Right, yeah. I mean, they probably wouldn't be husband and wife had he been, upfront from the beginning, but...
That would be... I think that is, like, a very clear deal breaker.
I mean, as we see here, but it's interesting how it reveals itself, because from the beginning, when we're presented with that opening scene, which paints it as basically a typical crazy night gone horribly wrong. And, and you immediately think, oh, there was something that happened with the fireworks. There was,
you're having ideas of what might have happened.
They plant kind of, misleading seeds, for you to pick up, Yeah.
You never see it coming.
Completely offsets it when the truth is revealed.
Yeah.
I was going to say after this, again, all I'm pointing out are how the authenticity of the characters made me I was incredibly empathetic to them. Mm-hmm. When Zeke's wife basically says, like, we're done, like, that's it, like, you this is what you're into, no, we're done. Like, you talk about how has that tone change to a drama. Mm-hmm. And this was heartbreaking for me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he loves his wife.
He does, and he's like good dad by all accounts, good husband by all accounts. That really was like, the final block in Jenga for me or whatever. It just like, I could see it all tipping over there.
They sent it all crashing down, right?
All of it. I was like, oh my God, his life's over.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see that like happening on his face too, and you continue to feel that. Like he goes to say goodbye to his daughter and everything. Yeah, it's just like it's really hitting him, like the consequences of what he's done. And like we said, they really make sure that you see that these people are suffering consequences for their actions. So,
Yeah, it really does. I wouldn't, consider this is odd, but like I wouldn't consider this movie to be a great moral about forgiveness. But I think there is. I think there's a moral about forgiveness in it. That these two dudes, that Zeke and Earl, really aren't that, fucked up a guys. They're pretty decent, honest folks, aside from one lie. And ultimately I was like, I think there's value in forgiveness, but I also understand why his wife specifically did not have forgiveness for him.
Right.
I don't know. I'm shooting from the hip here.
Yeah, I mean, again, we definitely see that he has this secret that has been consuming him all this time, and it's basically something that he ultimately can't escape from, and he's tried to build a family over that. And it's one of those things. It's like the weed that keeps that keeps sprouting, and it's and. Yeah, I mean, he has that really heartbreaking line where he says when they're talking about it a little later. I think it's right at, I forget exactly when he says this, but he says at one point that when you're lonely, it doesn't always go away when you're married.
Right. Yeah. I think that is in this scene, and that was pretty powerful.
Right, because that really grounds the whole film. I think is that it is about these lonely guys, these guys who sought this experience from just an overwhelming loneliness and an inability to have intimacy, and it really kind of grew into something else. And then once they tried to build something over it, that, Zeke tries to build a family over that. And this kind of loneliness that he's never reconciled keeps and the guilt that comes with it keeps rising to the surface. And he can't shake it because, he always sees himself that way. It's like when you've done something you're ashamed of, it completely defines who you are, so you can't turn it off. It just there's kind of a part of you that is like, this is who I am.
It also gives an interesting insight about Earl, who he has his neighbor is like after him. His neighbor might as well be like, you can enter me now. Like is
she's
and
she's fully making herself available.
And he does not make he does not. And I remember when in the first scene they're together, I'm just like, dude, she's a babe. Why are you not leaping at the opportunity? And it makes so much sense now why he is so nervous around her, actually, and why he's so just like, yeah, okay, yep, you can feed my animals, we can be friends. But I'm not going to show you anything more.
Right. Because he's not capable of intimacy, and he doesn't want. And with this secret, he can't let someone in. And I think it's interesting that Zeke has, was able to start a family, whereas Earl has clearly always kind of kept people at a distance. And I think and it's interesting. I think there is that way in which sometimes you put people at a distance, and that makes you more desirable. I think that's kind of what's going on with his neighbor pursuing him.
It adds another layer too to when we do meet Dick's wife, and she keeps insisting that she thinks he's been cheating on her.
Right.
Then you're like, oh,
right,
but not how you think.
Right. We first meet her, before we understand the truth of the situation, and then it becomes even that whole conversation kind of echoes differently.
Totally.
Right. Yeah, because she comes back in later after we find out what happened.
That's right.
And then there is another layer to that. So let's see, where are we in the movie? He says goodbye to his daughter, and she's watching The Bachelor or something, which I thought was kind of a funny
I thought that was
thing.
A great touch.
It was perfect.
She's not watching cartoons. She's watching The Bachelor.
Her programs.
Her programs, her stories. She's watching her stories. Yeah, and
that was hilarious.
She's already kind of fallen into a certain kind of taste and lifestyle.
Yeah, which is also accurate to the setting, right?
100%. Right. That's obviously what she's been. What she's been tuned to, what she's been exposed to, and so that's her level of comfort already at age 7 or 8.
Right. So that was a perfect touch. So Zeke leaves the house and basically ends up just going to the barn to be with his other lover, the horse.
Right.
And that shot of him that's he's shirtless and hugging the horse is shot for shot reference to the documentary Zoo, which we mentioned, by the way. They do that same exact shot in the documentary. So Dick's wife kind of interrupts their moment they were having Yeah, so that's when we get the second like moment of, oh yeah. So not only do we know that Dick is dead and she doesn't know, but we know why he's dead and she doesn't know.
That's right.
So there's like a whole lot of weight on her presence.
Yeah.
And then the cops come back.
Right.
And yeah, so everything has pretty much fully fallen apart at this point. The wallet comes up and Zeke takes off running and busts the door clean off, tries to free the horse, but the horse won't run away, which is also funny.
Very well done. Yeah.
Right. Again, it's like he can't get rid of the evidence. It's just, everything is just right there in front of him, Yeah,
and all of his choices have made a stain on his life that he can't clean up. So yeah, they try to arrest him, but there are no real charges that they can press against him, so they let him go. And when he goes to his daughter's piano recital, that was also heartbreaking. Same thing with like him trying to like kind of reconcile with his wife, and she doesn't want to kiss. And he tries to knock on the window to his daughter and she won't look at him. And you're just like, oh, yeah. It's a little heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
For a movie with such a comedic title, it really does, like, by the end of it, you're just kind of left with this disappointment.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, buddy, like, I just want to buy him a beer and let him have a breather, because holy shit.
Right, because it's just relentless, everything that they've been through.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he goes to Earl at the motel.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Earl at a motel? I don't know.
He's skipping town.
He's skipping skipping town with his girlfriend, his new girlfriend.
Yeah, but he's still in town currently, right?
Yeah. Maybe?
Right.
Irrelevant.
Right.
And yeah, so they're all three going to skip town. How are they all three going to fit in the truck? I don't know. But the man, Earl, is also playing This Is How You Remind Me by Nickelback on the guitar.
Right.
Which was fantastic. And he's not even playing like any chords or anything really. It's actually terrible. But then but then it cuts to the credits start and they have the actual song.
Right.
Which was a genius move in my opinion.
I love that as he's just fumbling through it, and like and Zeke says, oh yeah, that's getting pretty good. That's
yeah. And at the very end of the credits, they bring back in the cover, which was also a nice touch.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the end of the movie. It's freaking roll creds.
And that's what we're left with.
Yeah. So they're just gonna skip town, and who knows what's gonna happen to them? Are they gonna find a new horse? I don't know.
I mean, who knows how their problems are going to follow them? How things are going to manifest. It's they're just left running from their problems and kind of leaving the mess behind.
Yeah.
What happened to Comet?
We're not sure. Comet just hangs around. Comet's not going anywhere. I don't think we see.
Comet will be okay.
It's interesting. So
this was okay. I'm so glad we recorded and talked about this, because I hated watching this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I really like the process of sitting and watching this made me feel anxious and general bad.
Mm-hmm.
But like, holy shit, for such a because when I watched it, I was like, there's nothing to this movie. Mm-hmm. It's like a slice of life, kind of, no real, there's a story, but it, not that much happens or whatever. But there really is so much depth to it that can be so easily lost by not actually dissecting the film or thinking about it. I could easily see people watching this and just being like, that wasn't funny. That was weird.
Sure. Right. And it's not, it's technically labeled as a comedy, and the comedy comes up, but it's really, it's a comedy that rises out of what's a very grim and tragic situation.
No, totally. I love that Kayla brought up The Hangover, because it's like, what if The Hangover were shot with a more realistic tone?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my God, what a terrible day for those people in the worst city, Las Vegas. Just having a terrible time, missing their friend, stuck in the hot desert. Like, Yeah, that's
right.
this
Right.
movie.
If the comedy didn't dominate every scene, if you're really,
Yeah.
if you're actually left with the consequences of what happens, which is all just terrible. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's like, and it's like comedy is always, they say like, if I slip and fall, it's tragedy. If you slip and fall, it's comedy.
Yeah.
But they make it so real. It's like, it's like you said, from the beginning, it's like, I know these people,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes something that, the circumstances become very real. These characters become very real. And so then it kind of, it straddles the line between comedy and tragedy, because you're not quite sure where it falls at times.
Damn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Because it is so real, yet then we're kind of off put by these comedic moments, these kind of fumblings of, not being able to set his clothes on fire, not being, not being sure who to give the coffee to, all these little unexpected, but still very real and subtle comedy of errors, throughout every scene.
And yeah, even though there is so much comedy, it doesn't feel like a comedy. It just feels real. Like that's stuff that would really happen. Having an awkward moment where you don't know who to give coffee to, but you're just nervous and like making a fool out of yourself. Like that's real. That's normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
it's a reminder that all the hijinks we've been through in our lives weren't actually fun. They were just terrifying moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. So tonally, it was so interesting.
I know. There's that great moment at the end when the sheriff and the deputy are speaking and about how they're basically going to cover it up. They're not going to let any of this information.
Right. They don't want the town to get a reputation.
They want the town to fall apart. They don't want the daughter's life to be ruined. His family to suffer. And then she makes that comment of, oh, this has happened before. And and then she says, "You're joking." She goes, "Of course I'm joking."
Yeah,
just that, and just that moment again. It's this unexpected humor of just reminding us of how on the surface how absurd the situation is, but also how very real and tragic it is at the same time. Of like yes, this is something that none of these people really understand, and it's like everyone's kind of trying to make sense of it, but also just trying to move on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what would we rate this movie out of 5?
For me, it gets a 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's real, because I base it off of there was nothing wrong with this movie to me. I'm able to now, with the distance and hindsight, being 2020, I'm able to say discomfort is supposed to be conveyed. And so the director was incredibly successful with that, by conveying this anxiety and discomfort. The characters were outstanding. The dialogue was natural. I mean, it's an incredibly well done movie. I mean, that half star missing for me is really just a more personal connection with it. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise, it's an incredibly well-crafted, well-done film.
Even though you extremely related to the characters.
I did not. These characters are actually not me. I lied. I take it back. I'm cool and normal, folks.
You do not have a stain in your car.
No. Well, I do. It's from pineapple juice, though. We'll get into it later. Galen, what would you rate this bad boy?
I'd give it a solid 4 out of 5. I think it's the director takes a circumstance that the director and the writer take a circumstance that is on the surface very alienating and something that puts a distance between the audience and the characters. And I think the way in which they bring you into the characters' lives and really focus on how these characters' choices have affected them and the people around them, and in a way that isn't at all heavy-handed. It's very blunt and just kind of deadpan in how it delivers kind of the core of the story. And totally. I think the performances are so subtle but incredibly grounded and heartfelt. I thought it beautifully shot. And I think it struggles a little at first once it kind of delivers the punch of the story to kind of, there is a moment where you're kind of thinking, well, where does it go from here? And so it takes a little bit of time to kind of gear back up into what the aftermath of that. But I think once we're there, then you're completely back in the film and back in and invested in these characters and wanting to find, them to find the best resolution from this horrible set of circumstances. So yeah, I would give it 4 out of 5.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Kayla?
I would also, I'm also going to go 4 out of 5. I mean, I basically agree with everything y'all said, but my main thing, like, I thought the title is a little off-putting. I know that's like kind of a petty pick, but
makes sense.
That's probably why I didn't see this movie sooner, honestly, and didn't love, like I said, the gay sex mocking and stuff like that.
Sure.
But other than that, like, yeah, I mean, as we've already mentioned, but like, yeah, the characters were so authentic. The writing was incredible. Everything looked great. The tone, I can't get over the tone, like, because that's just such a skill to be able to present something that is factually one way and make you feel a totally different way about it.
Right.
Totally.
I think that's such, like, not everybody can do that, So that is really cool.
Yeah. Agreed.
So yeah, 4 out of 5 for me, baby.
Now it's time for ScreenVomit.
In this part of the podcast, we just kind of romp about what else we've been watching. So movies, shows, whatever else you've been watching lately. So Kali, what have you been watching?
Not a ton. I've really just been getting more into, I've been doing this since like course started, but I've been watching through WCW Monday Nitro, the old wrestling.
Yeah.
And I'm in the middle of 1997 right now with it, and it rocks. Everything is done so earnestly and purely, and it's just, what a great time for wrestling.
Are there women at this point, or?
There are women on screen sometimes.
Okay, but not in the ring.
No.
Yeah.
You have like ring valets like Miss Elizabeth and Woman.
Woman?
Great name.
Her name is Woman.
Her name was Woman. Yeah.
Love to hear it.
Okay,
yeah,
well, that's all right. Well, that gives us the point of perspective. Yeah. That does sound like a male-dominated sport.
90s wrestling. Yeah. Attitude Era wrestling.
Male perspective, right? Yeah. Here are all the characters, and here's a woman.
Yeah.
But it does rock.
Right.
Highly recommend WCW. It is some of the best, worst wrestling I've ever seen, and the best.
Yeah,
but also
where does the pleasure derive from that?
What, the best worst?
Yeah, and where does the enjoyment come from? As speaking as someone who's been so distant from wrestling, since I was probably like 9 or 10 years old.
Sure.
Oh, so you've seen this. This is probably prime time for you.
So for me, I have one specific GIF in mind even. It's a wrestler he's got his head outside between the ropes, and his head is between the ropes, and Hulk Hogan walks up. This is NWO Hulk Hogan. He walks up with a chair, and he's going to do a chair shot to the head, which is one of the most dangerous moves you can do. They did it all the time in the 90s, full speed, just metal to the head. And Hulk Hogan just bops this guy, doesn't even, like, taps him. He taps this guy on the head with a chair, and the guy flies away. That is what I mean by the best, worst wrestling. Just like, these guys are barely giving a fuck.
Very exaggerated reactions to...
they're workers too. They're doing a job, and some days they don't give a shit. And that's all you're seeing. It's like, it's the same thing.
They have to clock in and take the hits like everyone else.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's the same thing as someone just like spitting on a Whopper at Burger King. It's just like they're just getting through another day, another 9 to 5. Galen, what have you been watching?
Hell yeah.
Not a whole lot. I've been doing a lot of podcasts, so that's been like this. So that's often been motivation to watch other things. It's a kind of homework, but also, but a homework I love. But I'm also, I think the last thing I've been watching, I've been revisiting old episodes of Dr. Katz, Professional Therapist.
Oh hell yeah!
From the 90s. Oh yeah, just yeah. I'm so. I'm so delighted just with that with how well that plays, and it's such a simple premise, and it gives itself so much leeway, and it allows itself to pad itself with with a good like 8 minutes of stand up. Like a good third of it is just in the therapy session. It's just pure stand up, and then they're just able to just stitch around that with the interactions between Dr. Katz and his son and his secretary and his friends, and it's a deceptively simple premise, but I just love how it's all just rooted in these very subtly dysfunctional people, and just very delightfully dysfunctional, and just the awkwardness of that.
And it holds up.
Oh, it holds up so well. It's so it's just one of those I can just put on at any time. It's just the
hell yeah.
Yeah, and it just leaves you with these incredibly awkward moments with a person who is struggling to help people and can barely help himself, can't raise his own kind of man-child son, who's kind of in arrested development, and it's just like no one, everyone is just kind of, no one's moving forward. Everyone's just kind of stuck in their own bullshit, and it's entirely relatable.
Hell yeah.
We're all varying degrees of babies.
Pretty much, and it's just everyone just kind of waddling in their in their diapers of unresolved shit, and I love it.
Hell yeah. All right, what have I been watching? Yeah, let's see. When we were on vacay, we watched through Stella, which is an older show.
So
you never.
Oh yeah.
That's why I asked if that holds up because you never know with like the older comedies, like how it's gonna play in this day and age. Like I tried to rewatch Mr. Show a while back, and it was just gay joke, R word. Like there was like but Stella actually holds up absolutely perfectly, is hilarious still to this day. There's like almost nothing dodgy about it. They did do an R word or two, I think, but other
Still
than
great.
that, it holds up really well. I actually bought the season on DVD. It was like $5, so
score.
So yeah, that holds up and rocks. And I watched Devs. Have either of y'all seen Devs?
I still haven't. I hear it's fantastic.
No.
Well, I also heard it was good, but I have to disagree.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so it's done by the same people who did Annihilation, which is a perfect movie. So I had,
and an Ex Machina. Yeah.
Right. So I had high expectations for the show, but I did not feel like it delivered at all. It's so it's only 8 episodes, but there is no character development whatsoever until probably episode 5, I would say. So does that make a good show? I don't know, probably not. You're just kind of like, why do I care about these people? They have no personality. Like basically nothing is even happening. Nick Offerman is weird. He doesn't really fit into the show. The storylines are kind of corny. There's like one Russian guy, and of course he's a spy, right? And then this chick reunites with her ex from 2 years ago, and he's like extremely pissed off that she broke up with him 2 entire years ago, which is like, really, after 2 whole years, that's weird.
The one who got away.
And of course they end up getting back together. As we know, a man and a woman can never be friends on screen without having sex. And I think it kind of like, it's exploring some of the same shit that like shows like Legion and Westworld did, but those shows are like incredibly a lot better. And I would say, yeah, this show was like mostly boring. It felt like it went on for 100 hours. And watch Legion instead is my review of Devs.
A roast of Devs.
A roast of Devs. Sorry to pop off on Devs, but I was just so disappointed with it after I'd heard, like, for a while everybody was talking about it. It's been on my list forever, but oh boy, did it drag. And yeah, after I had just watched Legion, and they're exploring like some of the same exact stuff, but Legion is an incredible show. So good. Highly recommend Legion. And after watching that, then going to Devs, who's trying to tackle the same things, but it's not interesting, I'm just like, nah, I'd rather watch Legion. So that's my review.
Copy that.
Watch Legion.
Legion is great. I can say that Legion is fantastic.
Yeah, have you watched it all?
No, I'm not completely caught up yet.
Well, there's only 3 seasons and it's over now. I think they're stopping at 3 seasons and not doing more. At least that's what I read.
Oh,
yeah, recommend. Great show. So, Galen, what do you have to plug?
I just had a film I was in is now on Amazon for rent called I'll Be Around. It's set in the indie music scene in Los Angeles, and it's a kind of a large ensemble comedy in the mold of like the films of like Robert Altman or Richard Linklater. Just kind of a sprawling pastiche of different characters, basically following a number of different artists in their mid-30s, basically trying to reconcile with where they are in their lives at that point. Can they continue living the uncertain life of an artist in the music scene with the changes in the music scene, and how they their efforts to form and rekindle relationships. And it's just a really lovely film. It's I'd worked with the director on a few music videos before, and it's incredibly understated, very funny, poignant film. Everyone should watch it.
Hell yeah. We love Dirac.
Yeah. Yeah, there's wonderful music in it, yeah.
Can I just ask, like, it seems like you do so many musical things. Like, are you a musical person? Like, do you do music?
I dabbled when I was younger, but I've always just had a love of music as an aficionado, as a connoisseur. So I dabbled, but really stayed grounded in acting. But I always loved discovering music of all kinds.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We're big rockers on the pod. We both used to be kind of in the music industry a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Oh, I also saw that you had this movie coming up, Moon Manor, that looks so cool.
Oh yes. Oh,
there's a lot of people in there that I really like.
Yeah. Oh, I should give a plug for that. I'm not sure when that's going to be released. It's in post right now. But it's a really sweet film, and a wonderful script.
It looks so
by
cool.
This directing duo, and Aaron Granat and Machete Bang Bang, and that's that is her assigned name. And they're both fantastic writers and directors, and it's a wonderful film about an older man who is on his last day after deciding to end his life before his Alzheimer's consumes him. And it's really about it's
a movie about future me.
It's really what it's about. It's about our own mortality, and it's very grounded in the death positive movement about embracing that and making peace with the life we've led and those in it. And it's really incredible. Has a wonderful cast.
You got Ricky Lake. You got Whitmer Thomas. You got Roz Dressfiles. You next to Roz on the poster.
That's
Hell
right.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Roz has a great part in it. Whitmer Thomas and Ricky Lake and Gail Rankin from Glow all make cameos, and then Lou Taylor Pucci is in it from Thumbsucker and so many other great films. Deborah Wilson from Mad TV is in it. Incredible cast, and then the lead actor that it's based around, a man named Jimmy Carozzo, it's his first major acting debut at I think at 79 years old. He was at least in film, he was a singer and performer for many, many years, but it's one of his first leading role in a film. And he's just incredible, and it's based on his own life and his experiences as a gay man in the 60s and 70s, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful story.
Yeah, this looks fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it looked so cool.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought it up. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic script, and everyone is just chomping at the bit to see the finished product. So I will definitely be blowing up social media when the release becomes official.
Oh, you got it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Roz has a great podcast too. Have you listened to their podcast called Ghosted by Roz Dresfulis? There's a free plug for you, Roz.
Yeah. I still haven't heard their podcast, but they've been plugging it a lot. I love the premise.
Yeah, no, it's great. I listen to it every week. That's like one of the ones I always listen to. It's a great podcast. People come on and tell like ghost stories,
Right.
but Roz is like, for those who don't know, Roz is a drag queen and a comedian. So like they just make it really fun. So even though people are telling spooky ghost stories, like it still stays pretty like fun and funny. So
Yeah, they're great.
I think it's a cool pod. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very
Anyway, there's a plug for Roz.
Yeah, absolutely, and well deserved.
And where can people find you online?
Find me on Twitter at _Galen _Howard _ because I love underscores.
Incredible.
And then I learned my lesson with that, and I just simplified it on Instagram, Galen Howard, all one word.
Was regular Galen Howard taken on Twitter?
I forget what the reason was, or if I saw someone else with the underscores, and I just thought, oh, that's what you do.
You thought it looked cool.
And
That's all right. I have the same thing, so I can't really say anything.
I know. And now
my
I'm
Instagram has all the underscores.
I know. Now I'm stuck with it. Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right. So for us, we have to thank Thin Swimmer for our theme song. You can find them on Bandcamp. We're on all the social media at ScreenVomit, one word. Subscribe on your podcast app. We also have a Discord that we just started, and the links to all that is on all of our things. So find those links. Send us an email at screenvomitpod@gmail.com or tweet us with your thoughts on this movie or other movies. Suggest movies for the future. Let us know if you like our new artwork. And that's all our plugs. So thanks, Galen, so much for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, this was great. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.